Yes, Delegate, we are live.
Wonderful, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Friday the 13th meeting of the Baltimore City House Delegation. It's Friday 13th, February 2026. We're glad you could join us. I'm Delegate Robin Lewis, and today our agenda will be pretty tight. I would just like to thank our staff who helped make this meeting possible. Heather Bertling, who's managing the Zoom and keeping us going, and our delegation counsel, Matthew Bennett, who supports our legislative work. So last note on norms, we welcome experts and advocates to join us in the Zoom room, but we simply ask that you keep your cameras and mics off until you're asked a direct question. With that, we'll get started with our agenda. First item of business is to approve the minutes from March 6th. Are there any questions, any discussion on the March 6th minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. Moved and seconded. The March 6th meeting minutes are approved. The next item of business. So we had two bills to be heard today. We've had a last minute scheduling change. We are going to hear.
Madam President,
Sorry.
yeah, point of order. We had a first and a second, but we didn't have yays or nays.
Do we have yays or nays? Thank you so much, Delegate Smith. There's no need to rush, is there? The minutes were approved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any discussion on the minutes? Any opposed? Okay, excellent. We have approved minutes for March 6th. Thanks, everybody. All righty. Now, I think we're ready to move to the bill hearings portion of our agenda. We originally had two bills scheduled for today. For some scheduling and technical reasons, we're only going to hear one of those bills. All right. So we will hear House Bill 1245. That's Delegate Edelson's bill. Baltimore Fire Responders Child Care Support and Accessibility Program.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I think, Delegate Edelson, you have two witnesses that you'll call on when the time comes.
Yes.
The witnesses are Emily Kreutner and Monia Vincent, I think. Is that right? We got everybody?
Yes, those are I have two witnesses. That's right.
Awesome. Thank you, Delegate Edelson. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, good to see you on this fantastic Friday morning. The most important news of the day, in my opinion at least, is that Ashton Edelson is officially 1 month old exactly. Born Friday the 13th in February, so we have made it a month, and we're hanging in, and that's particularly important given the subject of this bill because childcare is such a challenge nowadays. Colleagues, for the record, Delegate Mark Edelson here in support of HB 1245. And yes, this is the Baltimore First Responders Child Care Support and Accessibility Program. This bill will build upon a pilot program that is already underway in Baltimore City that supports police officers with access to childcare designed for the realities of public safety work. HB 1245 essentially expands a proven model so that our firefighters, our paramedics, and other first responders can access that same support. First responders, as we all know, protect our communities 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Police officers, firefighters, and paramedics regularly work overnight shifts. They work 24-hour tours. They work weekends. They work holidays. This schedule is absolutely essential for public safety, and yet at the same time, it creates significant challenges for members who are raising families. Most childcare options are built around a traditional 9-to-5 schedule. As I know, I just dropped my oldest son off at our nanny share. And this simply does not work for many first responders. So as a result, many are forced to rely on complicated and often expensive childcare arrangements just to be able to report to duty. For all of us here, obviously, the last thing we want is someone responding to a 911 call at your home and having to think about whether or not their child is taken care of while they're responding to that emergency. This bill will help to address that problem. The current Child Care Support and Accessibility Program launched on August 1st of 2024. It provides a monthly child care allowance and child care navigation services for employees of the Baltimore City Police Department, helping them find vetted providers who can accommodate non-traditional work hours. So far, the program has extremely strong engagement. 94 families receive direct child care allowances. 417 additional employees access child care support services. Participants include both sworn officers and professional staff. And there has been a survey done of the recipients of this program, and it is particularly important to note the numbers for how it's reaching early career officers, which is the group most at risk of leaving the profession. So here are some of the numbers real quick. 52% of participants said they would have been likely or very likely to leave the department without the child care allowance. Of officers with less than 5 years of service, that number rises to 60%, said they would have been very likely to leave. And among officers with under 3 years of service, that number rises to 100%. That is how critical this is to keep our sworn officers in the department. Now, at the same time, so far, this pilot has been targeted on BPD, Baltimore Police Department. But we also know that our fire department is facing significant staffing shortages, and units are relying heavily on overtime simply to meet minimum staffing levels. Expanding this program to include a more broad example of first responders will help address the root cause of workforce instability. Under House Bill 1245, the program would expand to support essentially 400 families, 200 from the Baltimore Police Department and 200 from Fire and Emergency Medical Services. Families would receive tuition assistance of up to 200, it's called tuition assistance, but it's an allowance of up to $250 per month, along with continued access to childcare navigation and a vetted network of providers capable of supporting 24/7 and rotating shift schedules. Essentially, this program would be a total of $1.2 million in the allowance pool, and it'd be split by the state and the city. So the state would kick in $600,000, the city would kick in $600,000 to get us to the $1.2 million. As I mentioned before, you can tell the numbers of folks who have accessed this program. It's been extremely positive. 99% say they have had overall satisfaction. 96% say that the financial benefit is the most important, financial support is the most important aspect. And many report a much greater peace of mind and improved work-life balance, which is really what we're trying to achieve for our first responders who do so much to keep us safe on so many levels. Supporting first responders in this way is not only a family issue, it is a public safety issue. Reliable childcare improves attendance, reduces stress, and it helps departments recruit and retain the professionals our communities need and depend on. This bill expands upon a program that's already working. It addresses a documented workforce challenge and supports the first responders who keep our communities in Baltimore safe. For these reasons, I respectfully request a favorable report on House Bill 1245, and I will now turn it over to my panel, if that's okay, Madam Chair, to give their remarks. I think it probably makes sense to have Emily jump in first, and then Monia, and then we can take any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Delegate. Ms. Kreutner, please join us. Go ahead.
Hi. My name is Emily Kreitner. I serve as Director of Customer Experience at Upwards. I'm referring to my notes up here, and I'm in strong support of House Bill 1245. In January of 2024, Upwards partnered with Baltimore Police Department, as Delegate Edelson spoke to launch the Child Care Support and Accessibility Project. Parents were working nights and weekends and rotating shifts, and they were leaving the job based on that, as well as taking additional overtime to help make up for costs incurred by childcare. The child care program so far was able to offer both the direct allowance of up to $400 per month, and then also to be flexible enough to be used across provider types so that providers could either use, or so that parents could either use their existing provider, or we could help find source those providers for them, including those non-traditional hours, specialized care for those with disabilities, and those with multiple children. We saw over 511 BPD officers engaged with the program. And as Delegate Edelson spoke to, the numbers spoke for themselves in regards to satisfaction. How many showed that they were not only satisfied with the program, but they also stayed with the program. We also are seeing anecdotal evidence around taking fewer amounts of overtime hours, and then being able to spread the word for recruitment. They'll speak about it openly and often in order to recruit additional officers for Baltimore Police Department. So we know that childcare is a workforce issue. When an officer or a first responder can't find care for a night shift or a weekend rotation, it becomes a public safety problem rather than just a staffing problem. And so we urge the committee to pass House Bill 1245. We're ready to scale it, and the first responders are ready to
Great.
benefit from it.
Thank you so much. Ms. Vincent, would you join us? You can unmute and turn on your camera. Did we lose Miss Vincent? I hope not.
I'm here. I'm just having a little,
Okay.
I'm trying to get my camera on.
No worries at all. We will look forward to your testimony.
I can. For some reason that is not letting me put my camera on, but I can still talk. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Why don't you go on ahead? Thank you.
Yes, my name is Mania Vincent. I am a forensic scientist in the latent print unit. Oftentimes I have to stay late or come in on weekends and do rush cases. So childcare is a big concern for me. It was one of the concerns I had when I found out I was having my daughter. Since receiving a child care allowance, it's really provided some financial relief in paying for child care. I'm able to afford before and after care that allows me to, work later than her school schedule so that I can have a peace of mind of that she's in a good and safe place, but also that it just takes some of that burden away that we would have to pay. And I don't have to worry about how many, hours I have to work overtime just to afford that care. It's really important because some days I just don't know what time I'm going to get off depending on the case that I'm working. Oftentimes we try to, when major things happen in the city, we have rush cases, meaning that we have to stay as long as it takes. And so just knowing that I have that extra care there is really beneficial to me. I want to just urge the committee to support this bill and to expand it as much as possible. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks for your testimony. All right. I think that ends the witness testimony. Is there any discussion? Delegate Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Delegate, for bringing this bill. I do have a couple of kind of process questions because I was made aware of this program in the summer, and I know looking at the fiscal note, MSDE noted that the current child care program they administer, which would be the Child Care Scholarship Program, those funds are given to the providers, not to the parents. So there's not like this interplay, it just goes directly to the provider. So they're noting that to facilitate this type of program, which is atypical for them, they would have to reconfigure some things and perhaps even hire new staff. And I wanted to know what your thoughts were about that, because that's a bit of a departure from how MSDE processes their support of childcare.
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate that. So the way that we structure the bill so far is with the notion of if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. So the way that the program works right now is that it's a straight up reimbursement for the families. And so that lowers the administrative costs of having to then administer and process the funds and things like that. But like we're open to figuring out the best way to do this. What we want to do is try to remove administrative hurdles and not increase administrative hurdles. But obviously, there's always a change. You go from the way the program was administered fully locally to one that now would have a state involvement in it. So I would say we're open to trying to find the best way that can, if we're move this forward, to get the funds as quickly and efficiently as possible to the place they need to go, and get these service members the care that they need without adding additional hurdles. So, we're open to ideas on how to do that.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that. I have a couple of follow-up questions. So part of the reason why that's kind of a provider-specific thing is because there's also kind of a quality standard that the state has for childcare, which could be perhaps not reflected in how people just choose to pay whoever to provide care for their children. So just wanted to kind of lift that up. Another question I have is, I know that there's been an expansion of this program from BPD to be inclusive under the what do you call it? The first responder article to include fire personnel. And so I do think, there's obviously a lot of people that provide critical life-saving services that are not under that designation. It was actually one of the deliberations as we were bringing forth the larger child care package to the floor over this past week about how we preference people under the child care scholarship, and healthcare workers were not centered simply because they're numerous, but many of them have some of the same irregularity of hours. They're providing critical services, and in many instances, those that are eligible for the scholarship are making so much less than the average police officer, even with the potential of overtime. So I wanted to know how we square kind of the preference for certain folks providing really critical life-saving services, but are also often compensated much higher than others.
Yeah, so that's the challenge, and I appreciate the question. That's the challenge I think we're always going to face with programs like this, which is essentially, where do we draw the line? And then who is included and who is excluded, and how do we do it in such a way that the program is still sustainable from a financial standpoint? And I think that's just part of the conversation we're having on so many programs like this around the state. Obviously, we have our much larger child care scholarship program, which has been so unbelievably successful. And that's why it's also having a challenge financially. So the way that we tried to square it with this bill, the thinking was to focus on the group that it had been targeted at so far, right, which had been successful, which is BPD, and then expand it a little bit to include sort of our emergency personnel that provide a similar type of service, fire, EMS, within that article. And it's actually a little bit more expansive than that, because it also could include some of our DPW workers who have to get called out on emergency stuff when there's snow, ice, things like that. So to try and take care of our folks who are dealing with those kinds of emergency services. But your question really goes to a much larger, excellent point, which is how difficult it is to sort of draw the line on these kinds of things. And, I would say on that as well, I'm not wedded to this having to be the exact definition that we use. This was sort of the collective brainchild that we had of trying to draw the line in this place, so as to try to thread the needle between moderately expanding the program to include a few more groups that are so similar to BPD, but not expanding it so much that it becomes financially unsustainable. But there's no question that's a challenge that we have with all of these. And as someone who has worked on this so much more intensely than I have, I'm always open to your thoughts and guidance on how to do it in the best possible way.
And Madam Chair, I have one last question for, I believe, either Ms. Crowder or whoever else can maybe answer it. Perhaps the delegate could. It was, I guess, a few years ago when this was started by the city as a pilot. I recall that a lot of the framing was that this could also be a big way to improve the participation of women as sworn officers. And noting that data showed that the increase of women as sworn officers could prevent other types of abuse by police and other things that ultimately end up costing us money in settlements, et cetera, because of that. And there seems to have been kind of a transition from that being the premise to better supporting, retaining people. So I just want to get a better sense of, has this been a support in helping us attract and retain more women sworn officers, or do we not have data to support this?
Who's best to answer that?
I'm happy to let my panel jump in. They probably have more of the data on that than me.
Sure, I can answer that if that's all right.
Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. This was originally part of the 30 by 30 initiative to get 30% of sworn officers to be women in the workforce by 2030. And it is still a part of that program and is part of that initiative. Currently, Baltimore Police Department has roughly 19% of their sworn officers to be women. And that is an increase from a couple years ago. And I apologize, I don't have the original baseline number in front of me right now, but I do know that it is a significant increase, and I can definitely follow up with the exact count for you. What we found is currently in the allowance program today, approximately 40% of our allowance recipients are women, with the majority being men for a variety of reasons, but a lot of it being that they simply make up more of the workforce as well.
Are they sworn
And so
officers? The women, are they sworn officers? I want to make sure I understand that correctly.
the 19% that I referenced,
Yep.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I will double check and make sure that I have the exact number for you, and I can follow up with that too, just because I don't have that one right in front of me pulled
Of
up.
course.
But
Thank you.
yes, as far as retention and recruitment, that is one of the, it may be have not have been why we initially set out with the pilot when we first started talking with Baltimore back in 2023, 2024. And it's what we found to be what happened when we put out the survey, when we started getting this allowance up and off the ground. The reality of it is it deeply impacted recruitment, which helps our Women in the Workforce initiative, but also the retention. And even we're looking into and gathering some official numbers around our officers taking less voluntary overtime because they're getting their expenses covered and their baseline expenses covered. So we found that it had farther reaching effects than we had initially anticipated or intended.
Great. Does that answer your questions, Delegate Smith?
Yes, it just seems like some of the premise has kind of shifted in terms of impact. So I'm just thank you for that information.
And Ms. Kreutner, you said that you'd be able to share some of those statistics about recruitment rates, sworn officer participation by gender, that sort of thing. Can you get that to Delegate Edelson and then share that with the delegation? Would be wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, discussion on the bill? Okay, speak now or forever hold your peace. If I'm not seeing your hand, please unmute and ask to be recognized. Don't want to lose anyone. Okay. Well,
So
thanks.
why don't I, if it's okay, Madam Chair, I'll get that information from Ms. Kreutner and circulate that to everybody, and we can work through some of Delegate Smith's questions and go from there.
Great. Is there an interest in moving this bill today, or did you want to wait till you get the statistics?
I suppose that's up to the body, but it seems like there are some questions that need to be responded to, and I'm happy to work through that.
Okay. All right, that sounds good with everyone. Then we'll hold this bill and wait to get more a fuller picture of the pilot program's impact. And
It looks like there's another question, Madam Chair. I see Doug.
okay, please unmute. Okay, I see you, Delegate Young. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I would just remind the body, of course, that crossover is imminent. So if it please the body, I would move the bill favorable.
Thank you, Delegate Young. Thanks for speaking up. Is there a second? Is there a second? I'm not hearing anyone.
Robin, I second it.
Okay, thank you. I heard you, Delegate Addison. All right, the bill's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any discussion? Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I just feel very strongly that the premise of this bill has changed. I mean, premise of this whole program has changed. And I also know that we are spending a lot of money this session trying to expand access for people to childcare they're not already receiving. And so for the state to take on more responsibility here for people who already have childcare, I don't think that's very responsible at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Delegate Smith. So what's the best procedure at this point? The bill's been moved and seconded. There are some objections. I originally offered to hold the bill.
Why don't we do
Perhaps the
this?
sponsor, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if you're waiting on Matt to respond, but I'm happy to move to, if it's appropriate under the rules, to move to special order to next week's bill hearing to give us a week to work through some of the discussion on the bill. That would still put us prior to crossover, and it'll give us a week to work through some of these details. So if there's an interest in the body doing that, I'm happy to move to special order until next Friday.
Okay, that sounds good.
I will second the special order motion.
Thank you.
I
Special,
appreciate the sponsor.
thank you.
And Madam Chair, just a friendly
Yes,
reminder,
Delegate Inquiry.
to the group. While we know crossover is imminent, I would assume, given that we're the week before crossover, that the delegation is going to meet more than just next Friday. There's probably going to be something where we possibly could have another meeting between now and next Friday. So there's still opportunities. It's not like we have to wait a whole week.
Right.
Just to put that in the air. Like we have, I know we'll probably meet a couple times just to get some things moved and get some delegation letters out for things. So I think we have more meetings than in our mind that we really have. So I just want to add that color to the conversation.
So
Yeah,
that's a good point. Why don't I clarify, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, which is
yeah,
that
please go ahead.
I'll move to special order until the next Baltimore City House delegation meeting.
Okay, special ordered until the next calendar. Heather, okay, for our minutes. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate the sense of urgency about getting good policy done. And I also appreciate the commitment to thoughtful deliberation and getting the best policy out the door. So we can together make a commitment that we will do that on this bill and all the others that we advance. Thank you for the great discussion. And thank you to the sponsor for this great bill. Appreciate your panelists as well. So we will, this bill is special ordered until the next convening of the House delegation. We look forward to getting more statistics and more input. Thank you to the sponsor and your panelists. All right. Good job, everybody. Okay, the next item on our agenda is new business and announcements. Any new business, any announcements? Any loose ends? If I don't see you, please unmute and ask to be recognized. All right. Great. Thank you, everyone. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Great. Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned. See you on the floor.